So far we have been working with printed out the information that we want as in print, and we go there and we provide the string that we want to print, right? The thing is, aside from the fact that in Python 2 this would be simply as print and then the text right here, but we won't mention this because this was in Python 2 and Python 2 reached the end of the cycle right now. So when we are talking about print, sometimes we have to format our print to something more substantial or more complex. So it's pretty annoying to keep concatenating our strings as in hey, we have this here as in hello, and then we'll have a variable says that's a name, and then we'll have a printed out something like this as a exclamation point, right? And then we have name here, which is Bob. So we would have like something as hey and hello Bob. So we take the first string, we give it a space, we can overload the addition sign to concatenate a variable which is a string, and then we add the rest of the string. We don't necessarily need to do this because there are some format functions that allow us to work in a pretty nice format. So for example, let's say I want to print it out something like this. We can just use the format string saying hey format, and then here we use Monty and then the word Python, and then we print it out. The thing is, when we don't give the precedence, when we don't give the index for our format here, what we're saying is for the first blank, for the first position here, we'll have the first string, for the second one, the second string, and so on and so forth, right? The thing is, we don't necessarily need to rely on the order that we put things. We can define them the way we want it. So let's say here we'll have our placeholders again, but then we'll say, well, here I want to put this the first option, so it can be like this, and we have another position like here can be like this. And let's say we want to use position 0 again, right? So we can format this and we give the arguments that we were talking before, as in, let's use like Monty here, just to use the same strings, right? Oops, Monty. And then here we use the second one as in Python here. And if we printed out this here, we'll see that the first string reach out for the first index, then the second for the one index here, and then the 0 was used again. So we can pretty much build whatever order is string format that we want here, and as long as we pass those guys accordingly to the index position that we're passing here on the left, the string will be formatted accordingly. So a couple of things is, we don't necessarily need just to use index. You can use any placeholder you want it. So let's say we'll have here a string, and I want to call this first placeholder as name, and then I use the second placeholder as food, and I format this. And I specify which placeholder will receive each string. So I can say like Sam, and then the food placeholder is going to be potatoes. And if we run this, we'll see that the string Sam, which is in the placeholder of name, assumed this value, so Sam and then loves, and the second placeholder, which is food, was used by the value potatoes as we have here, right? So this is pretty neat. Also, we don't necessarily need just to use strings. Why not? Everything we are doing here, they go well with even if you have digits or floats or expressions, anything you want. So you can format your string the way you want it. So let's say we have something like placeholder, squared is placeholder. We can just use our format here and say, let's say 5, and then what is the second position? Is going to be 5 to the power of 2, or 5 squared. So what we have there, we have that those values, those numerical values, they were formatted already into strings according to the placeholders that we had. So we don't necessarily need to use the string function that we had before, right? Because we're already doing this with the format function. Another thing is you don't necessarily need to use the format function to format your strings. You can do something like, hey, I want to put here that this is, I'm going to receive a digit, like this is a number, and then the next placeholder is going to hold a value for a string, and let's say that this is a dessert because I'm thinking about food, and then we do like this. So after we put the string format the way we want it, we are using two placeholders. One is a digit and the other one here is a string. So when we do this, we actually have to identify what are those placeholders. So the first placeholder is supposed to be a number, and then the second one here is supposed to be a string. But as I want this to be between quotes, I'm going to use the literal value of the double quotes. And then when we printed out this, we'll have that 42 is a number and the word cake between quotes is a dessert, or is also a string, but everything is a string. So, but keep in mind that we can use the format with the placeholders. The placeholders, they can be either a variable name or an index if you prefer. It's whatever you'll be using to link what you have on the right with the left. And if you don't want to use the format, you can simply use the percentage %d for a digit or a number, or percentage %s for a string, and you can find all the wildcards that you can use for this string format. Okay, so thank you and happy coding.